So just so the audience at home, if you're watching this at home, unfortunately there might be a couple of spoilers. So if you want to watch, please watch the film first before clicking onto this video. I want to start with you, Paul. In an interview you did at Tribeca, you said that you wanted to make a film about the trust of strangers. Was that the sort of starting point for you in making this?
I can't remember saying that, man. No. Well, the start of it was basically in the pandemic. As the pandemic started, it was how are we going to make films, and maybe with restrictions and so on, and to try and make something or to try and write something about as fewer characters as possible, and sort of these people are people who, my nan and my mum and sort of other people I've known in my life and experiences I've had, and I just started writing about these characters, and then just sort of, didn't really know where it was going to go. Just sort of followed on scene from scene, and the trust of strangers. I mean, basically, it's almost the same. It's the same as how prejudgment and our own conditioning into how we view everyone. You make a judgment as soon as you see anybody. You make a judgment, or I do, and I've made a very serious judgment of that. No, but you make a judgment straight, and I think that's something that's really difficult to challenge, and it's really hard. And someone came up to me last night and said, I really have to fight to make not to judge the person I see and to look deeper, and we all do, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously it's from the perspective of Jason Watkins' character Paul, it's that trust of another person caring for someone that you love, and I think that trust sort of dilapidates in the film, and I'm interested to see why you chose that method of going with the son as being the sort of the constantly at the judgmental end of it.
Well, I mean, I think that if it's your parents, or if it's an elderly relative or someone you're responsible for, then I think automatically your mistrust of people, and your want for someone to be trustworthy or to know exactly what's going on, or control, if you like, is much more extreme. And I think with John's character, again, he's more complex than just simply not trusting this woman who lives next door to his mother. It's much more, it's easier for him to focus his attention on what's not going right than it is for him to focus his attention on what he could do more, which is obviously a problem in the world, that it's easier to sort of blame someone than to sort of look internally about what he could do. So that's why about him, but he's the same as, again, I think he's the same as, a lot of us who will automatically fear the worst.
I'm interested in this dynamic. It's essentially British social realism, and with horror underpinning moments. But I was wondering, was there any surprises that you were putting on set, or was it pretty much just beat for beat, this is what you wanted from each moment?
I think it was in the script.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read it for ages, so...
It was in the script.
Yeah.
But, obviously because the story's in your head, and it's interesting, people say horror, and, it's naive. It would be naive of me to say that there are moments in there that are horrific, and, I still think they're all believable moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's, and... So for me, obviously, you can say that you've lent into tension, and you've lent into the way it's filmed, and the music and so on. But what's interesting for me is that it only works if you're really invested in the characters.
Yeah.
And and it's all fucked up because of what Jason did, and I really believe that if he didn't do it, they'd be there now, chatting away.
Well, that was a part of me did find that Jason's character had a point for why he did the things that he did. Could you understand those sorts of concerns from the people that would be like Jason, that would find it odd that there's a person that he has never met before, and especially with the...
I think there isn't a person here with elderly relatives who wouldn't initially be concerned. That's just the way it is. That's my bleak outlook on
It is an
humanity.
unusual relationship.
Yeah.
Sadly, it shouldn't be, but in fact of the matter, it is a much younger woman helping out an elderly woman. It is unusual, so you can't really blame him for being suspicious. But if only he would just listen.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like it's a you don't know anything, Mum. That kind of leave it to me, even though I'm not there. But anyway, that's but it's open to whatever whatever.
I am going to give it over to the audience. So if you do have any questions, I know the first one is always a bit quiet. There we go.
Fantastic performance. I literally lived that film, actually. It was excellent.
Not the end, hopefully.
No. I mean, who knows, by the grace of God. My question was the scene with the watch. I was a bit confused. Is it the case that she takes it out of Elsie's drawer and sells it to get a walkie-talkie for her? Is that the implication? No.
Do you know what? It was never, ever in my mind that that's what people would think. Ever. So whether I'm just a naive person, but because she wears a watch, because we see her wearing the watch all the way through.
See that. Oh, sorry.
But you're not.
The watch is Colleen's one treasured possession.
Oh, right.
One treasured possession of something past.
Oh, sorry.
That might not even have been really the thing
Oh, that's fantastic.
that was to do with something past, but it means something. It's maybe the one thing,
It's
other
just
than a
that,
dog.
All right. It's just that she kept looking into the drawer, so I was wondering what she was looking in.
That's a separate moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the thing is that with the watch itself, it would have been too much for me to go, oh, do you know this watch used to be, to sort of try and find some.
God, we didn't have that.
No,
scene.
I know, but to build up the moment of like this is so
Oh,
precious
me
to me.
watch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about me watch.
No, but then, and then the thing is do you know what? When the first person who said that thought, who was just watching one of the cuts of the edit, and I was like, oh man. So then I'm like, okay, the watch is in this scene. Anyway, we can, have more light on the watch. Start to freak out that people would think that. But then, again, it just opened to interpretation of how you might see it.
It's really exciting, actually, because people have interpreted it so vastly differently, and everybody has, of course, an incredibly subjective view, as they should have. And so it's just mind-blowing to us the way that what people think has happened, and that's wonderful. It's a wonderful conversation starter.
Thank you.
I just wondered if so there was like a scene in the film where Colleen was sort of doing her makeup and there were sort of references potentially to Colleen's past. I think there was a mention about how when she was once naked she found it disgusting or something like that. And I just wondered if you could talk a bit about what the intention really was about sort of Colleen's backstory in terms of any intimacy she might have had in the past, or any thoughts about her own appearance and how she came across with other people. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is all the stuff that's in the script, about, for example, there's that moment where she's like disgusting, and when she says I've never lived with her, just tiny little things which I think are enough for Andrea as an actor to be able to build her own picture of what that reference is. So I've never really had a specific thing that's happened, because obviously someone is always going to read that and go, come up with whatever that her story is. And as for the makeup, realist, I have my take on it. All I know at the end of that scene is I really feel for her very much as she looks at herself in the mirror, and that's all I need. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, I can work out in my head why she might be feeling like that. And obviously when I wrote it, I had a feeling which I think possibly we can all relate to when looking at ourselves in the mirror, and that's so, obviously Andrea did the majority of the work in coming up with how she, what you see there.
Also, just to give, I suppose this might be helpful. It might not be helpful. I don't know, but might throw it out there. Is that we all three of us come to this probably from quite a similar perspective, in the sense that Paul knows what it's like to be an actor, and we're all trained in a sort of similar way, and so as we step in, what I'm saying is we're not short on backstory. You don't need to ask us twice, So the fact that we didn't then talk about it then circles right back to that just complicit trust that we had of one another, and knowing that, Brenda and I also both worked with Mike, which Mike Lee. We talked about that a lot because that was very formative for both of us after we left drama school. So we both trained, then we worked with Mike, and actually working with Mike was just one of the most formative things that has ever happened for me. But because of that, we're very willing to, bring a lot to the history of a character.
And you don't know everything about people, even the people closest to you. You think you know everything, but you don't. And I think it's much more interesting if you're working out for yourself what was going on as she looked in that mirror. But I found it heartbreaking myself.
Yeah, I found that was on the first day, and it was really, really, that really is. I still find that a really tough, moment to look at, and so it's quite a really amazing thing for me, because obviously it's I wrote it, but then the creation of that moment is obviously down to Andrew, but also the music, and it's so I really think that's an amazing moment. It's making me a bit emotional, actually. But so I think that it's I really sort of it's really great, because you're getting in a way some of the things that you're getting from seeing the film I also got when doing the film, because I'm watching someone create something. And you know what, some actors very different. Some actors really want you to tell them everything, and that's fine by me. That's a journey you go on together. But when actors are really, really good and really smart and clever and intuitive and instinctive, then it's such a treat to see what they may produce.
Andrea and I didn't discuss the scenes at all before we did them, because that would ruin any kind of spontaneity. I mean, if one of us wanted to throw in something, the kind of sort of ad-lib or something, if we already knew we were going to do that, it would ruin it. So in an endeavour to maintain spontaneity and honesty, we never discussed it beforehand.
I know sometimes it's dissatisfying an answer like that as well, because really you'd love to know exactly what was going, exactly the backstory and what was going on and what I was imagining. But something happens, I think, in the process of creating a character, whether you like it or not, where they become very precious to you, and you start protecting their personal life in the way that you would your own. And because you use parts of yourself to sort of generate it, it becomes an incredibly personal process. So in a way, I'd feel like I was betraying her to tell you what happened, the way she grew up and the difficulties she'd gone through and how she ended up at this place. But I can see from your face that you understand, and that you have your own story that's just as good as ours.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, because when someone has, when someone's been through stuff, and a lot of the time, we as listeners, or we as part of that, relationship with someone, want the details, and you can do just as much good by in terms of listening and being present without knowing the details.
I was interested to know, when you wrote it, did you write it with 1, 2, 3 or none of the actors in mind as for the parts, or did they come later?
Yeah, I mean, I would never write for an actor, because it's often very unlikely you'll get that person. So unless you've discussed it before you write it. So for me, as I said, these are all people that I've amalgamations of family members and so on and so on. So in a way, it's a mixture of either them or me. Obviously it's just, saying the lines and just, but often it just comes out and you're like, well, I don't even know how that came out. But then you just type it up. So yeah, there was. I try not to, think about that.
We've got one last question, just right in the front row.
Thank you. It's a fantastic film, great acting, good direction, loved it. It follows on from your comment about sort of not being too scripted and you sort of didn't discuss scenes. Things like when you sit down and you're having the meal together and the ketchup bottle and the sneeze, I guess that just happened, did it? Or
Yeah.
I just wondered how heavily it's scripted. And you just kind of drop these things in and go
Yeah,
with the flow.
it did. I really did sneeze,
Yeah.
so we
Because
just
of the
carried on.
And the ketchup bottle, was that kind of...
That was a
in
little
there?
bit of ad lib, wasn't
Was
it?
it?
But
Yeah,
it should have
yeah.
gone on the
Yeah,
list.
because I was wondering why.
Because when you had no money, we had no money, so we couldn't have a full catch-up roll. It was very, very low budget.
No, thank you. Yeah. Love
thank you.
watching it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, massive round of applause to Paul, Andrew Williams, Andrea Riseborough, Brenda Blethyn.
Thank you very much. Can I very briefly just to say thank you once again for letting for hosts having this, and thank you very much for your questions. I'm really grateful. Please tell your friends if you enjoyed the film or if you wanted to. This is a small independent film, and we want obviously people to see it.
Use your social media.
Yes.
Use your social media. You all look like real heavy Snapchat and Instagram users. Please do. Just tell your pals.
Don't tell them the ending, though. No. Don't tell them what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.